Hi, welcome back to Public Administration, and now we're moving on to Module 10. As you can see, we're approaching the end of the semester, and so we will wrap up our paper here and move on with some more cases after this week. So right now on Module 10, we're going to be moving into Chapter 9 of the text, and this focus is on regulatory administration. And this is an area of great importance for public administration. But we're going to have no extra readings or videos this week, so I want you to focus on your paper. And if you have fallen behind in the paper, let's get you caught up. So this is a good opportunity to get the prior drop boxes turned in and get you caught up. So like I said, we're using incrementalism to build a paper. And this this process should help get it done relatively painlessly. So this week we're going to carry on with our discussion. So we're going to respond to your classmates' discussion on discussion 9. Again, there's 2 threads you're going to be responding to. So log on at least 3 different days with your responses, and have a total of 6 different responses. And I do know that some people are finding it a little irritating. They have to log on 3 days. But I do remind you this is an online class, and so it's taking the place of an actual class, which in theory, you should be looking at about 3 hours of class time, plus all the reading that you normally do and everything else in the outside time. So I think that if you break this down to a face-to-face class, which I do every year, we do the exact same assignments in the face-to-face class, and it's not so much work. And we do rely heavily on discussion. So the reason I do the 3-day-a-week discussion is because of an administrative problem I recognize with the class. So when I first set this class up, and every other class I do online, I had the same problem a lot of other teachers encounter, where students would do all their posts in one day. And because not everybody is online at the same time, it makes it actually impossible to have a real conversation. So the idea of a discussion board is to discuss, and it is a very effective learning tool if used correctly. But with that, if students don't actively engage on it, it's a little more difficult. So, as a class, as you ask each other questions and engage each other, it should be easier. But it is something that I had to do because of past failures in semesters where students weren't participating. And I give quite a few points for the online discussions because I know the tests are really difficult. So these questions are really hard. The text chapters are long. That's kind of one of the problems with an Intro to Public Administration class. This is a very, very broad subject, and the book has to cover a lot of information, and I am required to test on that. And so to balance things out, the quizzes aren't worth quite as much as they could be, but I do have more weight on the online discussion. And that's supposed, that should give you a real bounce in your grade and make things easier for you. And I think really helps you take the information in a lot better than you would if you just did the quizzes. And so that's the reason why I have that there. But it's one of those things I can't make everybody happy with. However, I think if you do all this work, you will be happy with your grade. I mean, that's just the way I have it set up here. So you're going to read the 9th chapter of the textbook, and you have a quiz, and you should know how to do those by now. And then we have a third drop box that we're going to be working on, and 2 discussion posts. And so we're looking at policy development, and here at this point you've identified a problem, you've explained how it's administrative in nature, hopefully, or you've gotten closer to doing that. I know it's difficult to do. This is, like I said, a whole different way of thinking for a lot of people. And now you're going to start thinking of possible solutions for the problem. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a couple of paragraphs this week that will help you identify a possible solution. And since many problems are the result of failures that occur at numerous levels, there can be numerous possible solutions. And one solution that you can always have, and I expect you to consider this, is to simply maintain the status quo. So in some classes they call it doing nothing, but as Eugene Bardak points out from Berkeley, doing nothing really isn't doing nothing. You're actually doing something. You're choosing to maintain the status quo. So you're just allowing the present trends to continue, and that is sometimes what has to be done with policy or administrative decisions. So keep that as an option. But you can have as many or as few possible solutions that you wish. But if you do discuss maintaining the status quo, I want you to also discuss the likely outcome of doing that. So remember, that is a possible option. So this should be another simple section to have. And like I said last week, you're going to have a total of 5 parts to this paper. And as you start off, they can be a couple paragraphs each. At the end, you stitch them together, and some of them will require a lot more information, and others you could trim down. And of course, there'll be some cutting and pasting and moving things from one part to the other, but it's going to be an orderly way at looking at solving a problem. And again, that's all public administrators usually have to do. And if they make a mistake or if something goes well, they're usually asked to report on where the mistake was or what they did well. And so they would go back and they would backtrack and they would write a paper like this. Again, this is just one way of doing it. This is from TU in Delft. So in the Netherlands, that school has this system of 5-step process in place. A lot of other schools have much more deeper ways of doing this, but I think this is a very good way to do it for a public administration class, because in public administration, generally, some problems have to be figured out in a split second, and you can have a thinking process set up to work pretty instantly. And like I said last week, we will get to this more when we get to the case of the Las Vegas Police Department. It's a very interesting case, and it gets into training and how the way I see it is it has a way of looking at decision making being reprogrammed in police officers' actions, so they're able to have less consequences to bad decisions. And and as street-level bureaucrat, if they make a bad decision, the consequence could be really fast and really severe. And when you get to law enforcement, they have to make split-second decisions, and there could be some serious problems that arise. But they approached problem solving in a different way, and so we will get to that pretty soon. So you have the Dropbox, you have the quiz, and we have a discussion. And the discussion will be related to the text. And so it's gonna, you're gonna refer to a text for these 2 questions. So there's no outside reading. And if you fell behind, please get in touch with me. I have had a few meetings with students on campus, and we've had a couple of telephone calls. So like I said before, I'm totally open to having a discussion with you. If you're a little confused, I understand. I've been there. My first public administration class really kind of scared me. I ended up having fun with it and learning a lot, but I do understand that this is a new way of thinking for some of you. Other people, this comes really naturally. But if you're somebody who's having a hard time, or if you're not having a hard time and you just want to visit and talk about the class, feel free to reach out. So go ahead and reach out to me, and we'll answer any questions. Again, if you have other questions, we have a discussion thread here, so you can go to paper and click on that and put any questions you may have. So I have that set up for you as well. And the benefit of that is if I don't get back to you immediately, maybe a student will read what you posted and can post an answer. But then if you do post on there and I get to it right away, I can post an answer that other students may want to read as well. All right, so I'll look forward to reading your next part of the paper. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. Thank you.